It's a bit unusual, isn't it? Whenever we hear of someone selling a car, we always think quite negatively about it. We think, oh, he must not be enjoying it, he must not like it, it must be too ruinously expensive. But none of those statements could be further from the truth. Let's hop in and I'll say a bit more, because it is a bit windy today. And so, welcome back to the channel. I'm well aware I've probably got some of you here who watch me go out and buy this car, realise my dream, and now you're here with me as I'm talking about selling it and moving on to something new. It's all quite wholesome, isn't it? Anyway, welcome back. Pleasure to have you as always. Now let me say one thing from the get-go. I love this car. I adore this car. I adore R8s in general. It is the mid-engine supercar that rights so many wrongs about cars in this category. It is usable. Use this every day if you want. It is reliable. You can see out of it. It's fairly practical. Name something and the R8 is probably pretty good at it. They are wonderful cars and don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. So why then am I thinking about getting rid of it? Well, let's fire up that V10, go for a bit of a drive, and we'll talk about it. It does sound good. That's a Capristo exhaust, by the way. Now, you know that stereotypical phrase that people tend to say when they're breaking up with someone? It's not you, it's me. Well, that's right on the money as to why I'm getting rid of this car, because there's no one thing, there's nothing I can put my finger on and say, this is what I don't like and why I'm selling it. Very un-YouTube of me, I do apologise, sorry to disappoint, but it just doesn't exist. Rather, it's me, or more accurately, it's my life situation at the moment. Because listen, I don't have a lot of responsibilities. I mean, sure, I've got a job, I've got a mortgage, much like many of you, but no kids or anything like that. I do have a big ass dog, a Rottweiler. He eats a lot. It's a bit of a responsibility, actually. Anyway, my point is, while I'm able to, why not push the boat out a little bit further? Why not get something even crazier for a little while? Because if life's taught me one thing so far, it's that we're all here for a finite amount of time and no one knows how long that's going to be, so we best enjoy it and not leave any regrets on the table. So what has the year been like with my dream R8? Yeah, it's only been a year. I don't tend to keep cars that long. A year's actually quite a bit for me. Oh, nice Ferrari California right there. I wish I might be able to swivel the camera actually. Can you see it? Not sure if you've seen that. Oh, I've made a mess of it. I do apologise, welcome back. If you're like me, you just can't let things like that go. You need to show someone. So yes, what's it been like for a year with my dream R8? Well, they say don't meet your heroes, but the R8 is a hero that has been to charm school. I've always said the R8 is like the exotic without the risk. Now obviously, they've got the potential to throw you some big bills. I've covered that in my buyer's guide. But honestly, you buy a good one of these, you take care of it, you service it on time, and it's about as safe a bet as it's ever going to get. That's certainly been the case with this car, 100% reliability. Now it's not like this car is just an exception to the rule. I can say this firsthand because I owned two V8 R8s prior to this one. Not immediately before or at the same time or anything. I had one, I switched to a different car, and then I came back to a manual white V8, lovely car as well actually, and they were both really reliable as well. A few little trivial faults with them, and that's what I'm trying to highlight here. This being a facelifted car, if we put aside the point that this is a V10 Plus, obviously it's going to be a better car than a V8, because it's the facelift, Audi had ironed out what little faults the R8 platform did have by this point. So what you've got is a really refined, really well developed car at this stage. So on note of the V8 versus V10, it's the great debate, isn't it? It's always going on. You got V8 owners saying, I like my V8 because it costs me less and I think it sounds better. You got V10 owners saying, oh yeah, but the V10's much faster. Having collectively covered tens of thousands of miles behind the wheel of both, honestly, there's no comparison. You need to go for the V10. The only reason you would ever end up with a V8 is because of budget. Personally, I think the V10 sounds better with an exhaust on. It's obviously a lot faster, and if we're talking about value for money, I mean, you think about what you're getting in a V10. The drivetrain is not a million miles away from a Huracan. Get a load of this. Oh my God, man. Yeah, that never gets old. The engine, oh, I've broken the camera again. Sorry about that. The camera mount obviously can't handle V10 acceleration. That might have been alright in a V8. Right, so let's talk value for money, because it's important. If it wasn't important, you'd probably be off looking at a new Ferrari or Lamborghini. Someone who's buying these cars, money matters. So what are you getting for your 55 odd thousand pounds? Well, that engine back there, the 5.2, this is why I think there's such great value. It's not a million miles away from what you're going to find in a £150,000 Lamborghini Huracan. The gearbox, think about this. So this platform was very heavily shared with the Gallardo, the later LP560 Gallardo. Again, an engine very, very similar to what I've got back here. But the Gallardo never did get a dual clutch gearbox, whereas this S-Tronic did. So in some ways, you could argue this R8 offers more, is the better car, technically, on paper, than any of the equivalent Lamborghinis that were available at the time. Honestly, I think the V10 is the bargain of the century still, and I think the values of these, they can only really go one way, especially with the R8 being discontinued. To many, and I can absolutely understand why this is the case, this was the purest form of R8, generationally speaking, because starting with the looks, we've got the Gen 1 quintessential R8 looks. It's got that big side blade, not the split one like the Gen 2 had. But in terms of technology and drivetrain, this car is actually much more comparable to a Gen 2 car than it is an early Gen 1 with that dual clutch gearbox. So for some, it's the best of both worlds. You get those looks, but then you also get the later drivetrain where you're not having to swap out clutches or deal with a clunky single clutch automated manual. I am absolutely going to miss that car, you know that? It's what non-car people just don't get, that letting go of the good ones isn't easy. It takes a little bit of us with them, doesn't it? Hopefully some of you can relate. But you know, there's just so many other cars out there that I want to own, want to experience. I never want to get to the point where I look back and go, I should have owned one of them. I wish I'd done it. I wish I'd gone ahead and just bought one of them. Because selling my GTR to get this car was difficult. But look at the experience that I've got to have with it and all the good times. So with a heavy heart, if you are in the market for a V10 Plus R8 and you can assure me that you're going to give this old girl a good home, then please do check out the ad in the description below. Now obviously this is my car, so I know it's got nothing to hide. It's got a clean history, but I would never expect a prospective buyer to take my word for it. And that's why it's a good idea to use vehiclescore.co.uk. Put the plate of this car or any car in which you're interested in buying into their system. It'll tell you all the good and bad points for completely free, but if you are serious about buying it, you should purchase one of their paid HPI reports. I'll put a link and a 15% discount voucher in the description below for that. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Please do hit subscribe, hit like, buy my R8, and I'll see you for the next one.